Hey guys, it's Mr. C. Today we're going to talk a little bit about courage. And specifically, we're going to talk about being courageous in a bullying situation, either one that you find yourself in or one that you're witnessing. While we're talking about all this, try to remember that being courageous means that you're being brave and that you're taking calculated and smart risks. All right, so let's take a look at a typical bullying situation and some of the players that are involved. Now remember, a bullying scenario is something that is repetitive. Just because you have a single conflict with somebody does not mean that that's a bullying situation. It's a conflict, certainly, but let's make sure we're identifying bullying properly. All right, so the first character that we have in a bullying situation is the bully themselves, or the person that's doing something wrong to somebody else. The second person we're going to identify in this scenario is their target, the person that they're being mean to, the person that they're picking on, the person that they're bullying again and again and again. And then finally, in lots of bullying situations, we have bystanders. We have people who are watching this happen and participating in one way or another. Okay, so let's take a minute and talk about how the target of a bullying situation can actually be courageous and show courage in the face of that situation. Now, lots of times, if you're being picked on, if you're being bullied, if you feel targeted by somebody else, your emotions are out of control. You're angry, you react, you want to argue and fight and even scream about it. The courageous thing to do in situations like this, however, is to actually try to stay calm, to keep your head and understand that the person who's targeting you in situations like this wants you to overreact. They want you to be angry. That's the easy thing to do, but if you're courageous about it, you should actually try to keep your head and remain calm. Secondly, what I think to be one of the most courageous things you can do if you find yourself being targeted by a bully is to have empathy. When you're in the moment and you're angry and you're upset and you're wanting to lash out, it's really hard sometimes to remember that the person who's targeting you in a situation like this a lot of times is a very unhappy person and many times is experiencing exactly what they're trying to do to you. Many times bullies are jealous. They want you to be as unhappy as they are. So in the moment, if you can be courageous, if you can take that risk and think and remember and have empathy to know that the person who's doing this to you is not a very happy person to begin with, you are doing the right thing. And finally, have the courage to talk about these things with other people. If you're being targeted by a bully, talk about it with your teacher or a trusted adult at school. Talk about it with a family member. Talk about it with your friends. It's not something that you want to hide. It's not something that you want to continue. So have the courage to take the risk and tell somebody that this is happening to you. The second character that we want to talk about in bullying situations is the bystander. Many times, bullies perform in front of others. They want other people to laugh. They want other people to think they're cool. They want other people to be afraid of them. And so they target and bully kids in front of other people. So we're going to talk about how you can be courageous as a bystander or somebody who's watching a bully target somebody else. The first thing that we have to remember is not to join in. As a bystander to a bullying situation, lots of times you're just happy that it's not you that's being targeted. And so you're happy to join right in on the side of the bully to make them either think that you're cool or to make them, think for one reason or another that they shouldn't be targeting you, but that it's good that they're targeting the person that they're picking on. This is never a good idea. And a courageous bystander will always refuse to join in to a bullying situation. The second and even more courageous thing that you can do as a bystander in a bullying situation is to actually speak up for the target, the person being targeted, or help them get out of that situation. Now, I'm not saying that you go in with a hot head, screaming and yelling and ready to fight. No, that's never a good idea. But what I am saying is if you can have some empathy, understand that this bully is not a happy person, that they want your approval and your attention, well, lots of times as a bystander, you can help get that person out of the situation, or you can help that bully to realize that what they're doing is not actually really cool. Finally, I want to talk about the last player in a bullying scenario, the bully themselves. It's true. Even if you find yourself as a bully in a situation, you too can be courageous. The first thing and most courageous thing that you should do if you find yourself on the wrong side of a bullying situation, if you find or realize that you've been targeting other kids, that you've been being a bully, is to admit that you've done something wrong. That's incredibly difficult and incredibly brave. And that's one of the biggest issues that we have with bullying is many times bullies refuse to admit that they're doing anything wrong. So be brave and admit that you've done something to hurt somebody else and that you're on the wrong side of a bullying situation. The second thing that you need to do, which is also embarrassing and incredibly courageous, is to say that you're sorry. Admitting that you've done something wrong is one thing, but saying sorry, trying to make up for it, trying to repair that relationship with the person that you've hurt is incredibly courageous and incredibly difficult. Finally, if you find that you've been bullying kids, the last thing that you need to do is try to change. Be courageous. Understand that nobody's perfect. Everybody needs to work to improve themselves. And as somebody who's been targeting others and making them feel bad about themselves for one reason or another, you need to take that courageous step, try to change yourself in the future, and make better choices next time. So as a school, let's agree to be courageous in bullying situations. If we find ourselves the target, let's be courageous and show empathy. If we find ourselves a bystander, let's be courageous by not joining in. Let's be courageous by advocating for people who are being targeted. And finally, if we find ourselves in a situation where we are acting the bully, let's be courageous and admit that. Say that we're sorry and try to repair those relationships and change ourselves.